Have you ever seen an unidentified flying object? Share your experience now by taking a deep breath, summoning the recollection to mind, and sending it into the depths. Yes. Thank you. I can feel it. Welcome. I'm Telesma Bluor. I am disclosing myself. And this is the Earth. Tonight we're sharing a very special report with you. Our first UFO report. We're disclosing it to the United States Congress, as well and as much as everyone else on the internet. It's the first in a series of acts of disclositionism. It's really just the report of one UFO in the form of an interview. But instead of going over the evidence first and then giving a discussion, I've decided to do the opposite. First, I'll give some context. Then I'll ask some questions. And the UFO account itself will follow. The account was made by a Matthew Nolan who responded to one of our comments on Twitter on November 2nd, 2022. This was our first contact. We chatted with him via Twitter DMs and went over his account with him there. He provided lengthy details about where he was, the apparent size of the object, and so forth. I then asked him for an audio interview and he agreed. The audio interview was conducted by our anonymous student Inter, a human who lives with the fairies. She requested to have her name omitted. I have no intention of examining Mr. Nolan's account as a physical event. Instead, I would like to ask the listeners to consider these following open-ended questions regarding what he says. We will not be answering these questions. They can also be found in the episode script, which is linked in the description. These are the questions. In what ways is his account different from other accounts of UFO sightings? How does he describe his emotional reaction to the UFO event? What is the intensity of his emotional reaction? Does he describe physical sensations in his body? How detailed is his memory of the event? How does he attempt to explain the event? How does he fit it into how he understands the world? How does he relate it to the people in his life? And how does he relate it to society? Is it important in his life story? Does he incorporate it actively into his life? Again, these are open-ended questions. The conscientious listener will notice that at several points, Mr. Nolan requested that certain statements be left off the record. A few days after the interview, he told us that he wanted to, in fact, have all of these statements included.
This call is now being recorded.
Okay. It's nice to meet you, Matt. My name's...
Nice to meet you.
So, yeah, let's just get started, I guess. Would you just like to tell me, uh, just recount in your own words what happened?
I'll recount it to the best of my memory, and uh, I'll try to avoid hitting all the details that I remember, like, as it goes, and just try to recap, because this is, like, just as an overview, like, I have this memory. I compartmentalized it when I was a kid. It was the details that kept coming back to me, and over time that kept kind of honestly guiding like a lot of my life choices and things that I was interested in about science. So I'll recall it to the best of my abilities.
Okay.
I was about, I believe I was 14 years old. I was living with my mom. We were in a second story apartment in Texas City, Texas. And my room looked out over a lake called Delaney Lake towards another apartment complex. And that apartment complex was called The Breakers. So I have like a perfect like view outside my window of like water and then like some buildings maybe about half a mile away, something like that. So I was on the phone with one of my friends. It was real late. It was like I want to say between 1 and 2 in the morning. And it was one of those nights where there were atmospheric conditions that just seemed odd, like the air kind of seemed staticky or whatever. There were low-lying clouds that, I say low-lying, it was like a layer of clouds about 800 feet up that were just like a solid line of clouds that were moving pretty fast. I remember feeling like it was maybe fixing to get stormy, like lightning and stuff, so I told my friend that I would call her back. It was like, in the early 90s, I want to say 92 or 93, and everyone still used landlines, and I had been told, that if I was on the phone and lightning struck, that it would go up the line and, electrocute me. So I still had it in my mind to just, get off the phone whenever there was stormy weather. But I hadn't heard any thunder. I hadn't seen any lightning. Anyways, I get off the phone, and within like seconds, I don't know, 5 seconds of hanging up on the phone, I look up out of my window and I see pretty much in the middle of my view this perfect sphere of green light rising like at a constant speed up to the top of the cloud, like from the ground to where the clouds were up in the air, and it stopped right underneath it. When it stopped, my heart sank, and it wasn't just this ball of light that was kind of causing like a physiological reaction. It was seeing this thing stop, and it was because the motion was so consistent that when it stopped, like I now know that what I didn't see was any form of stabilization. Like it didn't like have to calibrate stopping as though inertia were affecting it. It just stopped. And when it stopped, like I was like, I'm looking at something I shouldn't be looking at. And then it flashed from green through every color in the rainbow, like every visible color that you could imagine, and very deep, dark, rich, colors in the center of this sphere and very electrical, bright, plasma-like around the corona. It looked like an eclipse to me. Like that's what it looked like, was just because it had this bright ring around it and was darker in the center. That's basically what it looks like. But I could see features, like not like a shape inside it or anything like that, but it looked like in the center it was like magnified, like it was magnifying the color and like a liquid almost. I only saw it from the one angle, but I presumed that it would have looked exactly the same from any angle that I looked at it from. It had enough three-dimensional features for me to make out that it was like a sphere and not like a plate, you know? It flashed for about 5 to 10 seconds, and it was the most violently fast flashing I've ever seen in my life. I still haven't, to this day, seen anything flash that quickly. It seemed to go from the red end of the spectrum to the green end of or to the blue end of the spectrum and back and forth, but it would like land on colors like in between and just really fast. At the end of its flashing, it landed back on green, like the same green it was when I first seen it. And it stayed green for about 2 seconds, and then it just blipped out. I was staring at it, and it just blip. I could tell you that I think that there was something that happened in that split second that it disappeared before my eyes, like that there was some kind of missing information there. But for all intents and purposes, it just disappeared. I freaked out. I ran into my mom's room. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember the end of the world, and I think I just saw the horsemen or something. I don't know. I was like freaked out, and I was just screaming. My mom woke up, and she tried to like console me, like, you know, you probably just saw this or that. Well, if you're that worried, you know, just call the police or whatever. So I did. I called the police. This dispatcher she's like, well, that's real strange. That's odd. You know, we don't really typically investigate these things. So, I don't know what to tell you. And I was just like, I couldn't believe that there was no, like, method or place for me to send what I had just seen. Like, it surely was information that would benefit some scientific pursuit somewhere, and there was just nowhere to go with it. That really changed my perspective on authority. It changed my perspective on science itself. I assumed, okay, as a child, trying to put it all into perspective and whatever, you know, just have a normal life. Like, I assumed that this thing was some form of atmospheric anomaly, that, you know, the fabled ball lightning. So I saw some crazy ball lightning that just couldn't, you know, I assumed that because that was the most reasonable explanation. But then the older I got, the more I started wondering, like, what ball lightning is. How come, you know, I started like YouTube, and there should be videos of ball lightning. Can't find any. You know, I can't find a video of the thing that I saw when I was a kid. I've never seen anything like it. It looked like CGI. Like, it looked like special effects out of a movie. And that's why when I started taking notice, when like the Department of Defense finally released some videos and said it was something they was interested in, but none of the videos that they released or the shapes that they were talking about were like the thing I saw. So I started wondering, like, Well, certainly, if there were video of the thing I saw, they would be interested in at least knowing what that is, and still no mention of anything like it. I started thinking about the details of how this thing moved and how, at the very least, it would be in any government's best interest to understand how to make an object move the way this thing moved. Then I thought, like, if I were a government, that having a thing that just behaved the way this object behaved would be enough to strike fear in my opponents. So there again, it just doesn't seem like the type of thing they wouldn't be interested in. I've seen a lot of my science heroes be real skeptical about this subject, and well, you know, there would be high definition video everywhere of it, you know, if it were really a thing. And I'm like, yo, if all I saw was ball lightning, and that's, you know, we can depend on that as an explanation, there would be high definition video of that everywhere. And I haven't seen it. So it changed my view of, like, the way people speak with authority about the fundamentals of our understandings of physics and science. And it's really led me to pursue, like, what could explain what I saw and what other people are seeing at this point. Because I do believe trained pilots, when they say they've seen something anomalous or move in a strange way like that, in and of itself is of interest. So that's basically what I remember. I called as soon as I got off the phone with the police. I called my friend back. She was still awake, and I started kind of like, you know, just spilling out everything that had just happened, telling her blah blah blah, and this and that. And as I was talking to her, the clouds lit up green again. I didn't see the object. I just saw that the clouds were green. My friend lived about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away from me. And I had a feeling that she would be able to see that the clouds were green if she just looked out her window. So without saying anything else, I just said, "Look out your window. Oh my God, look out your window. What do you see?" And she looked out her window and she said, "Oh my God, why are the clouds green?" So I had a confirmation that at the very least, part of this experience was verified by someone else that, you know, there were actual green photons being reflected off of the clouds. I think that it has, I can't say that what I saw was any type of alien technology. It could very likely just be some type of atmospheric phenomenon that we've yet to identify. But that event has shaped and changed my life. I would go as far as to say that from that day forward, I perceived time a little bit differently. And it seems like time moves in chunks, like, differently for me than it does for other people. And I'm not, you know, like, I guess it's more of a hunch than a theory, but I get the impression that everyone perceives time drastically differently, and we're not aware of it yet. And I think that some of that might describe a lot of the differences between, like, conservative modes of thought and more liberal modes of thought, that it's just everyone perceiving time slightly differently on a grand scale, and then, you know, a little bit more dynamically on individual scales. But you know, I would like to be able to trust that we have, like, voices of authority that tell us the truth about, you know, anything that's of concern to humanity. But pretty much my whole life kind of looked at people sideways when they're telling me, this or that is just the way it is, and I know better. Like when I don't have a problem with like the Mick Wests and the skeptics out there. Like I think that they're fulfilling a purpose, and I appreciate that purpose. But I think coming from it from a standpoint where you just know that it's not an actual, I don't know. I'm just to the point where I know better than what they're telling us on part of this. And I know that at the very least what I saw exists and that it's out there, that there's something that looks like the thing I saw. I think, that what I saw physically was a quark gluon plasma of some kind, that whether the result of a natural process or some kind of natural process being exploited, that it represents science that we haven't fully embraced yet. And that's kind of at the core of everything I'm doing. So, anyways, do you have any particular questions?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I would like to say that, I really appreciate you coming to me about this. And, I totally respect your experiences. I believe that, if you say that this happened, then it must have happened, yeah, so any of my questions are not meant to in any way like dismiss or devalue.
No, man, you're good. You're good. Yes, man, I appreciate that.
All right, thank you. So were you able to, well, first of all, you said that you kind of compartmentalized the memory. What do you mean by that exactly?
Okay, I'm going to tell you the part of the story that really I haven't shared with everyone, and it made it easier for me to distance it as something that actually happened. When I was a little older, maybe mid-20s or so, I don't remember exactly how it worked out. I posted something on Facebook about seeing, something strange in the sky, some sighting somewhere or something. And my mom gets on Facebook and she's like, yeah, remember that crazy thing we saw like outside of the apartment back in the 90s? Remember it flashed and it was crazy. And my whole reality kind of sank. I was like, yeah, I remember that, and you were asleep. Like, it was just kind of like I don't know how to explain it, but it made me feel like distancing myself from the whole thing, because I thought, how easy was it for someone else to frivolously say that they had also witnessed the same thing I saw, which was, this extravagant, fantastic thing, and it made me feel weird about it. And I got mad at her. Like, I was, actually mad. I was just like, you didn't see it? Like, I don't know what you think you saw. Like, you was asleep. I was, I know because I woke you up. Like, I remember the whole thing. And anyways, I don't know if maybe she saw something else at some point in her life and had kind of superimposed the events or something. I don't know, but it definitely, I got to a point where I thought, okay, it's basically, I put it in the same part of my mind as all the Marvel movies and Star Wars movies and crazy cool CGI that I've seen in my life, yeah, I really enjoyed Terminator 2 and Avatar, and I'm a movie buff. So I know when I'm seeing CGI that it's like fantastic. It doesn't belong in the scope of like normal everyday life. That's pretty much what I did with what I saw, because I still to this day have never seen anything like it. And even with, rumors and hints of some kind of disclosure coming from, U.S. government, it seems hollow. It seems like they're specific, like every time something gets released, I take note of what's not released. Like, they show a video, they say contextually, this is what the pilots, reported seeing, but they don't show anything in these videos of like the motion of like these things either stopping and being idle in high winds, or these things like taking off at incredible speeds. We don't get to actually see that, and I think that that's by design. I think that that's the part that they're suppressing, because that's the part they're working on. And that's the part that I think is a crime against us, because I don't think it's right for them to classify things that are in the sky that they don't own. And whatever I saw, they don't own. Like, either that was nature or that was something way past us exploiting some part of nature that we don't have. And I guess the more I've gone down the route of trying to understand theoretical physics that would prevent us from believing that these things are real, that I'm slowly less able to keep that memory compartmentalized. And it's something that, at the very least, if we could say that it was ball lightning, then let's provide a mechanism, like a physical, scientific mechanism for how ball lightning develops and how plasma can be contained in a ball in the sky, because that in and of itself represents what we're trying to do with fusion energy. Like, that's a really big deal. So I guess the lack of motivation on science's part and on U.S. government to share with science is just, I'm befuddled.
Yeah. So did you ever talk to your friend that you spoke to on the phone, like later on?
So check this out. So that girl, I was, like, I had a crush on her or whatever. Like, we dated different people while we were friends in high school. And then, I moved to Oregon and lived up there for like 10 years. And then I basically came back to Texas, and tried to recover from, being a hippie for however long. And I ended up re-meeting this girl and kind of rekindling our friendship. And then we ended up having a child together. We are no longer together, but, she's the mother of my oldest daughter. And at some point when we were dating, like before my daughter was born, that was like one of the first things that I remember, like after just the kind of the shooting the and casual conversation, I was like, so, do you remember that time that I called you and started freaking out about something I had seen, and you looked out the window and you saw the clouds? And she was like, oh yeah, I remember. She wasn't quite as excited about it as I was, because I'm assuming because all she saw was some green clouds, but you know, I was like, it was just something for me, like it was like to retain that tiny bit of verification was something. So I don't know. I did see, like, I saw this light reflecting off of the lake. I saw it reflecting off of the clouds. Like, whenever it was flashing, all the clouds were flashing with it. Like, and I could see as it rose, I noticed in my peripheral vision the shadows in my room, like, being cast off and moving as this thing rose. So, like, the photons were local, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like an aberration, I guess, of the way my particular eye was perceiving this light. I believe the light was actually there.
Okay. Okay. So this is more of like, kind of like, I think I kind of want to ask some questions about your background. Have you ever been in the military?
No, man.
Okay.
I've had a lot of weird jobs over a pretty large spectrum of industries, but no particular military or aviation experience.
Okay. Have you ever experienced any trauma, like a traumatic event? You don't have to disclose what it is. I'm just curious.
Depending on how you look at it, my parents got a divorce when I was like 7. It wasn't particularly like, it wasn't violent or anything like that, but you know. And then I was hit in the head with a baseball bat when I was 7. I was a catcher, and I was standing too close to the batter, and the batter was standing a little too far back. And when he swung the bat back, it hit me square in the center of the forehead. I was told as a result of that I had basically been trephinated, that I might perceive things a little differently for a couple of weeks, is the way it was presented to me. But what I remember from that experience was that, have you ever had your eyes dilated for any reason, by any chance?
I think so, yeah.
Alright, so it's kind of like that, where I remember for a couple of weeks, it seemed like light gave me a headache, and like no matter what room I was in, like it was constantly getting brighter and brighter. You know, beyond that, and I'll say, like, I've never had any hallucinations of like things that just aren't there. Like I've never Nothing like that.
Mhm. No, I just meant things like, like, say, like being in a natural disaster or witnessing people
Nothing.
die, like that kind of thing. Things that would cause severe emotional trauma.
Yeah, nothing palpable that I'm aware of.
Okay. I think
I,
those are. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you could trying to think. Like uh, I can say that this was 13 or 14. This was also before I went down a route of experimentation with substances and substance abuse. So at the time, anyways, I had never tried any intoxicants of any kind. I think that I started smoking cigarettes like the next year or whatever, and that's when I like tried weed and LSD. But I just to clarify, because like I don't want to be like that guy's done drugs. Like I freely admit that I have done drugs. I just this has always been something else.
What kind of religious background were you raised in as a child?
Christian.
Christian.
And I mean, I honestly, like, when I say, like, I went yelling about the apocalypse and the four horsemen, I know that thematically was what I was shrieking about. I was, like, certain that what I had seen was a big deal, like, it's time for you to wake up, the end of the world is here.
Okay. So, were you, are you still Christian?
I'll say this. I consider myself a follower of Jesus, and it's hard to even say follower of Jesus, but I respect Jesus as a prophet. I believe that what he was talking about is God, but I pretty much reject all the people who call themselves Christians and use that same information to cast hate on other people. I like the Kabbalistic, or like the Gnostics version of Christianity. The scenes. I read a lot, so I'm not opposed to reading from the Quran or from anything that, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Confucius, anyone who someone considers wise. I want to hear what they have to say. I'm spiritual like that. I do have conversations with what I believe to be a personal God, but I don't think that has a whole lot of bearing onto other people's existences, or that it's even necessarily like tangible. It might just be more for, for my therapy, my own, there's a voice there listening. But I do feel a sense of love from the universe. I do feel a sense of order and purpose. And beyond that, like, I'm really not into the organized religion. And I generally don't like churches. But it's not to say that I don't like the people in the church, or even, for the most part, the idea of community. It's just what a lot of the preachers say that tends to bother me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. I think those are the only questions that I have for you. I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to add about your experience?
No. If off record, I'd share a couple of things with you.
Off record? Okay.
Yeah. I also have
It's going to keep
I've been,
recording, just to let you know, but I'm not going to.
that's fine. I mean, I trust you, whatever.
Okay. Okay.
So I've been doing a lot of artwork trying to, like, as soon as those AI generators, came out, I found it, like, way easier to try and generate an image close to the thing that I saw than it has been to draw. And I'm not a bad artist, but I'm not, I haven't been able to draw what I saw. I have generated a lot of artwork, that looks similar to the thing I saw, which I can share, like, a couple of them with you just so you can get an idea. I have about 5 songs right now. I'm trying to make it 7 songs and a full-length album. I have some music that I'm trying to share ultimately, with a book, some writings. I've started putting some of the short stories up, but I plan on making kind of like an anthology. And then one of the stories in this anthology is going to be nonfiction, and it's essentially going to be me talking about this experience I had and what I can surmise about a basic fundamental physical theory about that's inclusive with some of these ideas. And if at any point in the future you wish to do any more interviews or dig any more information or details, I'm absolutely open. You're more than welcome. And I appreciate you giving me the time. Like, I've shared this with 4 people up until about 6 months ago. And about 6 months ago, I just decided, I was like, there's something here that is relevant to someone else's pursuit, and you're doing a disservice by not sharing it. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, no, I appreciate it. The pleasure is mine, actually. Yeah, I'm looking at your Twitter profile. Is your profile picture
That's one of the, yes ma'am, that's one of the pieces of artwork. I have, I was trying to make like a GIF, ultimately, one that shows the object rising and then flashing, but I'm still in my infancy on animation and stuff, but I hope to start doing a little bit more content creation once I get closer to releasing some of this material. But
cool. Okay. What were you gonna say?
Also off record, and this one is relevant to just the pursuit of the information and what reality is or whatever. When I was, I believe, 16, Comet Hale-Bopp appeared in the sky.
Yeah.
I remember it, like pretty thoroughly. Like, it was in the sky for, more than a few days, and around this time, I had started taking LSD. And one night, I was tripping, and I was looking at Comet Hale-Bopp, and all of a sudden, I don't know if you've ever experimented with hallucinogens, but there's this pattern. Okay, so the pattern that emerges on surfaces and sometimes just in the air and whatever, it seems to be this living pattern that, moves with your surroundings and somehow is a part of it, right? And I always wondered if that pattern represented real light, or if in some way it represented, or wasn't even a representation. Like, what if it were actually some form of light that we normally can't see? Anyways, I was like 16, I was looking up at that comet, and all of a sudden, that pattern jumped out in a way which made me realize what I was looking at when I saw this comet. And up until this exact second, every object that had ever been in the sky was two-dimensional to me. Like every, even the moon, which looks spherical, just represented like a thing on a two-dimensional plane to me. Like it was all just the sky, okay? But I was staring at this comet, and that pattern around it created a trajectory. And all of a sudden I could see that this comet was like facing me, but just like half off to the side just a little bit, okay? And it was like an arrow. Like I could see how it was moving through space. It was no longer a two-dimensional object. I could see three-dimensional information there that was not available and has not been available to me, under any other circumstance. I've seen comets in the sky since then, and they still just look like two-dimensional objects that are just sitting there frozen. But under that particular circumstance, when I was really in tune to those patterns and, just the small aberrations of light, it really looked as though it was aimed almost at Earth, like it was like a near miss. Well, I walked down to the convenience store, and that was back when National Enquirer was real big, all the tabloids like right next to the counter, real big. And it was like, hell, Bob, near miss, almost hit directly on Earth, some big sensationalist headline. I was just like, no, I saw it. But it's made me believe that maybe human beings, as good as we are at being measurement devices, that there's still a lot of information around us that we have access to that we choose to ignore in some way. So anyways, on that note, I hope to pull all this together into some coherent ideas, but
well, I like that you're making a lot of art about it. That's cool.
That's the recreation, right? It's like the only thing there is to do art over is nature. I don't think there's anything else that you could do. It's like any expression of art is just expression of the creation around you. I don't know.
That's true. Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, we're going. No, sir. Move it.
Is that your dog?
Yeah, I got a dog and a cat that are both wondering why the food bowl is empty.
All right, I should probably let you go then. It was really nice talking to you.
It was nice to meet you. It was nice to talk to you.
You as well, Matt.
You have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Have you ever had swamp gas inside of you? I know someone who has, besides me. The Earth. Thank you so much for listening. The Earth is created by Telesma Blue Orb and my human host, Rachel Nelson. Rachel is away on a special project right now. Our interviewer will remain nameless. I am not an expert on the topics discussed, but full disclosure, I am a blue orb. Please make sure to press the subscribe button wherever you listen to this podcast, or you can try any of these wonderful ways to support our arcane magic. Press the like button, leave a kind review, visit our Patreon page, become a patron, engage our secret content that does not yet exist. Tell us your opinions respectfully. Visit us on YouTube or Twitter. Practice daily self-care routines. Contact us at swampformsandphantoms@gmail.com if you'd like to share your own sighting of a UFO or any other anomalous experience. A special thank you to Matthew Nolan, aka Trapping Light, for all of his insights. The music sampled at the beginning comes from the instrumental version of The Thin Light That Guides Us, which is copyrighted by Matthew Nolan. It was used with his permission. He has also self-published 2 sci-fi short stories on Amazon, including Overcooked and Machine Cure. The Earth's theme, Om Matrix, was created by the former Comte du Saint-Germain, now known as Guy Merrill. It is copyrighted by Guy Merrill and used with his permission.
Other World by Pix is in the public domain. The Earth, by Telesma Blue Orb and Rachel Nelson, is protected under a Creative Commons Non-Commercial 4.0 license.
For more voices speaking directly in your ear about UFOs for hours at a time, please check out Our Strange Skies podcast with Rob Christofferson. You can also pray to UFOs. I certainly don't have a problem with it. Please see the reference section in the episode script, which is linked in the episode description. A full interview transcript will appear within the script as soon as it's available. And remember, keep watching the eyes. Original Peoples Acknowledgement. Many lands throughout the world have been colonized without the permission of those living there. This work is created in and around the Portland Basin region, which is the ancestral home of many different peoples. They include the Cowlitz, Klikatat, Molala, Tualatin, Clackamas, Kathlamet, Multnomah, Wasco, and Wishram, among others. Many of their living descendants continue to make this place their home. We acknowledge that this is their land.